Hey, what is going on YouTube? It's Captain Jack here. We are down in Florida hanging out with one of my buddies. We built him a custom PC. It was his first custom PC ever. We did this back in August of 2019, and that's right after the cryptocurrency mining boom from the 1000 series finally died out. So we've got him a Ryzen 1700 and a GTX 1060, but with the current hardware actually being fairly reasonable and pretty cheap, we got him a pretty solid upgrade. So we're here, we're gonna go through, do some benchmarks, talk about his system. We're going to do a full upgrade. So he's got a full platform upgrade. So we went Ryzen 5600X, a new B550 board, and he got an AMD 6900 XT. So a really solid upgrade. He's going to be getting some great FPS. He's playing Warzone 2, a little bit of Apex and some other games, but we're going to go through, do some benchmarks. I'll talk about it, do some voiceover, and then we'll come back and revisit it once the build is complete. So I'll do some just some time-lapse stuff of us putting the build together, but let's take a look at some benchmarks. All right, so this is the specs that we're working with. We've got a Ryzen 7 1700 at 3 gigahertz, 16 gigs of RAM, and this is, I don't think we're on a DOCP or an XMP profile, so we're at DDR4 2133, and then we have a Zotac GTX 1060 GPU here. We're running stock cooler as well, and then it's an Intel 660p drive if I'm correct. But so what we're going to do here is we're going to throw an extra fan in the front. We've got an XFX 6900 XT that's going to go here. Let me go downstairs and we'll show you everything that's going in here. All right, so let's just cover some of the hardware again of what we're upgrading. So we are doing a full platform upgrade. So we've got an Aorus B550 Elite AX V2. So this also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on it. So he's going to be using some of the extra features for that, for some accessories and peripherals. Right here we have an AMD Ryzen 5600X 6-core 12-thread. We did go with the Grizzly, got some Cryonaut here, so some good thermal paste. And then I've got a Hyper 212 RGB Black Edition. This is from my portable PC. We also needed to do a power supply upgrade because he's running a 450 watt Focus Gold rated unit, and that is not going to run the 6900 XT. So I also have my old RM850X with all the cables and everything. So we're going to be doing that. And then this was the good upgrade. I think it was like $660. So what a steal of a deal for this GPU. So we did some benchmarks. We'll put those up here in just a minute, just to kind of show you the overview of performance. We'll do a before and after of just how good the performance uplift was for this one. So here we are in the menus of Warzone 2, just going through and showing you some of the settings that he is currently playing on. VSync is off. This is a GTX 1060, so no RTX settings, so there's no DLSS or super sampling, anything like that. We do have NVIDIA image scaling turned on to try and change some things around, improve the quality a little bit. Anti-aliasing, changed it from filmic to SMAA, so it's not as blurry for him whenever he's looking at things. Most everything on the settings menu is set to medium to low already. There's a couple things that were set to high, as they either have a low or high setting, and those are just some of the shadows and other things like that. But here you can see the benchmark has been running for a few minutes up here in this top left corner, and he's averaging right around 60 to 65 FPS, and he said this is very consistent with what he has been seeing in his gameplay so far since the game has been out for a few weeks. And this was the main driving reason to go to such a high-end upgrade. The other thing that I really saw was the frame timings on this. So as you can see right here, we're kind of sitting between like 12 to 20 milliseconds on his frame times, and coming from a 3090 Ti down to this was very jarring, and you can actually kind of see the image stutter a little bit. We are spectating somebody in this video footage, but you can see it skip a little bit. So that's probably what we'll see the biggest difference on whenever we get this upgrade complete. So now let's transition over to Apex Legends, just going through the menu here and going through some of the settings. I'm going to change every setting in here pretty much to the same as what I have on my system at home with my 3090 Ti and my 5900X again. Everything here will be set to either medium or low, pretty much disabling as much as I can as far as the extra volumetric lighting, shadows, things like that.
going through the benchmark here, you can see it's been running for 7 or 8 minutes now up in that top left-hand corner, and we're using most of his GPU again. The other thing to note coming from Warzone 2 over to Apex Legends was that the frame times were much improved over the second game. You know, things weren't skipping or jumping around. It was nowhere near as jarring. This is a 120 hertz monitor that we were playing on. It was one of the very first ASUS gaming panels that were out. But you can see right now, as the benchmark runs, we're sitting right about 100 frames a second. Apex really is a game that runs very well on most systems if you turn everything down. And I was kind of surprised at how poor the performance was, honestly, on this 1060. So I'm really excited to see what happens when we put the 6900 XT in. And then the last benchmark that we wanted to run was the 3D Mark Basic Edition, the demo version from Steam, just to really get a actual number of how large the difference was between these two GPUs. So let's head to Past James to see exactly how those scores turned out.
All right, so after running the Time Spy Extreme demo, let's see. We ended up with a 4030 on the graphics and a 6745 on the CPU. We were averaging, I think we peaked right around 3.7 gigahertz on the processor. Let's see, our CPU test, we got 22.6 FPS, and our graphics score, we got 26.1. So let's go ahead and swap everything around. Holy crap, this thing looks amazing. So especially in the XT H500, we reused his case, we used his RAM. We were correct that the RAM was not running at the DOCP rated specs, which is a this is a 3200 megahertz kit. But we got the Cooler Master Hyper 212 RGB installed. This 6900 XT is massive, so it's just short. I think it's like 13.6 inches and an ROG Strix 4090 is 14.1, so it would come to like here. Just absolutely monstrosity of a card. But so far super quiet. We have the 4 cables here because we don't have anything individually sleeved. So we just ran one of each from the power supply just so that we didn't have any power issues. But everything else is plugged in. We added the fan in the front just for some extra ventilation. We still have the fan on the top, on the back, and then here on the heat sink. But otherwise, this looks super clean. It's all matte black. The only RGB on this is a little bit on the board here, and then on the heat sink.
Now, Future James here. Before we get into the benchmarks, I just wanted to let you all know that I did run a display driver uninstaller, and we installed the latest version of the AMD drivers for his 6900 XT before starting up with the benchmarks. So here we are back in Warzone 2, and immediately the largest difference that you can see besides the frames per second is what I was talking about earlier, which is the frame timings. It is consistently between 6 and 8 milliseconds, and it is so buttery smooth. We are running the AMD FSR. We did some testing with it on and with it off, and at 1080, pretty much the same settings. We're about 120 to 130 frames per second. I'm sure there's a little bit more tweaking that we can make happen, and of course another driver update, but what a great improvement. He's running double the frame rates that he was from his 1060. Everything is very clean. We're not even using all the GPU in this test. Now let's transition over to Apex Legends. Now again, Apex Legends is a game that I personally have almost 400 hours in so far over the last few seasons, so I know how the game should feel, how it should react, and how it should play. And just looking at that FPS counter in that top left corner, we're 200 plus FPS consistently. Most of the time we're sitting 250 plus. The other thing to look at is that frame timing, 2 to 5 milliseconds consistent. It is just buttery crisp. It feels so good. This is exactly the Apex that I know and I love to play and how it should look. The first thing that I immediately noticed was just the adaptive refresh. The AMD FreeSync was working very well in these situations. And as you can see from that 3v1 wingman kill right there, just looks so good. The other thing that you may notice is that the VRAM on the card is sitting at about 50%. This is actually the second test that I decided to run on this GPU. So the settings right here that you guys are seeing are actually all maxed out. When I set it to those competitive settings that I play on, everything was 300 FPS all the time. The card would not drop from it, wouldn't move, wouldn't budge. 300 FPS locked, which is the frame cap for this game. So here on high settings for everything, and I will show you the menu settings right here, we are sitting consistent at 200 plus FPS all the time, even with these great frame timings. What a great increase and performance uplift in Apex Legends.
Well, this is by far the biggest surprise, is this score right here. We went from a 4,000 to a 16,000. The graphics score went from a 4,000 to a 20,000. On the last test, we were somewhere in the 20s in both of these. So that's a huge increase. Well, guys, we finished up this build. It is super late. It is almost midnight. My buddy and I, we were just beat. This was a very last minute kind of deal that we decided to film this. So apologize if the video is a little shaky because it was all hand shot on my iPhone. But wow, talk about a change. Those 3D Mark scores totally speak for themselves. We've almost tripled his FPS in Warzone 2. Apex on max settings is locked at 300 FPS. I mean, just an incredible uplift in performance. He is rocking a TN 1080p 120 hertz panel that was running over DVI, and that's not able to take care. You can't do that over HDMI, and this card definitely does not have a DVI port on it. So he is picking up a 32-inch 1440p monitor, so this card is going to be perfect for that. This rig is going to be able to handle anything he wants to put on this for quite a few years to come. But what a great upgrade. Just totally solid rig. I'm very impressed with the 6900 XT. I haven't touched an AMD card since the 5970. It has been about 10 years since I've had an AMD card in my system, and man, what a beast this thing is. So just super impressed. But anyways, thanks guys for watching the video. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit the like button. It's much appreciated. It helps the video reach out to more and more people. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification so you're notified of whenever I go live or when I post a new video. If you want to find me anywhere else, you can join the Discord. The link is in the description. We talk tech, we play games. We posted a bunch of Black Friday deals anytime we see any type of tech deal, which is exactly how I found this gear. You know, we were looking, I was like, hey, if you want to do an upgrade, now is a great time to do it with the, you know, they're getting rid of the stock for the 5000 series. The 5600X is a solid CPU. Same thing, 6900 XT for $660. This thing is almost on par with a 3090 or a 3090 Ti. So just the fact that we were able to get such an incredible deal on it and such a huge amount of performance is just great. If you guys want to find me anywhere else, links to all my socials are in the description. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, any of those things, you can find me down there. But other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.